All right, let's get going. Hey, everyone. Welcome. November already. Can't believe the year's flying by. Thanksgiving is what, 2 weeks? That's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah, I guess they're second hybrid meetings. So thanks for everyone for joining in person and via Zoom. You can see on the agenda that I sent out, so a couple key topics, including a guest that we'll introduce. But so first thing, so we'll go through the agenda. First is minutes. We'll go through that in a minute, and then Linda's here, who's going to talk on about a new government reporting tool. I'd love to get our feedback on that. And then the project, you remember New House Media, I think, who was here, Noble House, sorry, who was here last meeting, which is 2 months ago. An update on that, and I think Kevin and Chris can give us an update on that. And then any additional items, that we have following up, new business, we want to bring up all of that. So I'm going to jump into it. First thing is if we can do a review and approval of the minutes.
We need Anna Marie, you and me, and Mike.
Yes, that's right.
We need a majority of those people.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, of the four of us. So do I have someone move to approve the minutes?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second, I can go ahead and second it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yep, Mike too. All right, so it's unanimous. So good. All right, so that sounds good. So why don't we jump right into our first topic. So Linda, thank you for coming at this late hour. We appreciate it. But yeah, Linda and I met a month and a half ago, something like that, and he had teed up this new software tool that he has, and would love to get our input on. So I'll just turn it over to you to go for
mouse. I'm going to share screen here. This is always tricky because it doesn't always work out the way it should. So first, let me go here. Blank on our website.
Yeah, Chris, can you enable sharing screen? We got a message. It says we disabled share screen.
Shouldn't be. Oh, yeah, it's part of the meeting Pam set up. There you go. Sorry about that. It's green on my end. That's why I thought you were good to go.
All right, so we go and are you seeing our screen?
Yep. Yes.
Good.
Okay. So basically what we've been working on is we've already been working on enhanced reporting of our various financials and budget reports, and more towns are leveraging technology. And there's a number of tools out there that provide enhanced reporting of finances and giving citizens and anybody interested in town finances the opportunity to view these, but in a more easier fashion, more graphical format. Currently, we produce this, which is a budget book, 300-page document that we've been producing. And the traditional way of doing this is if you go to our website and you go here into budget documents, if you click, you'll see here a series of documents that we produce, and then this is the budget book. It's essentially this book just in a PDF format, but it's still a 300-page document. You kind of have to scroll through this to get to the information you're looking at. This year, we got a little bit creative with hyperlinks on the table of contents. So for example, if you wanted to see information on the tax collector, if you click the table of contents, it takes you to the tax collector page, but it's still a static PDF document. So what towns have been doing more and more is going to a more graphical interface where you can portray the same amount of information, but just differently, easier in an easier to read format. So I'm going to go, there's two major vendors. One is called NeoGov, and the other one is called ClearGov. Their product is very, very similar, and we've seen demos from both now. We initially spoke to NeoGov, and then ClearGov also knew that we were looking until they came. So I'm going to share you one example of Darien, our neighbors, and they went through this route not too long ago. So. And basically what they do is very similar. So you go, like I just did in our case, you go to the department, you go to finance, and let's see if I can get to it quicker. Budget. Oh, open them again, I believe as well. So basically you get to the open, you land to this page, which is basic additional financial transparency reporting, and I'm going to try and click on it. This is it here. They just put this up, and they're playing with it. They've moved its space a couple of times. So,
And which one did you say they're using?
Darien is using, I have it here. They're using Neo.
OpenGov, I think. If you go back up, it says powered by OpenGov.
The products are very, very similar. So it's Darien. I have the link here. CT.
How long have they?
So they've been doing this about 2 years now.
Okay.
So essentially it's that same document that we just looked at, but then using this OpenGov platform or NeoGov, they both do the same thing. You see that same information in a more graphical, a better user interface, graphic user interface. So here in this sense, you're looking at the general fund. So as opposed to scrolling through the individual departments, you have the department information. It has data here that's hyperlinked. It gives you option for the same information if you wanted to see it as a bar, if you wanted to see it as graphs, if you wanted to see it as a pie chart. But it gives you that ability to drill down and see that same information. And more towns are doing this. And so this is something that we've been looking at doing. And then here it says the general fund. But if you wanted to narrow it down to a specific department or to a specific chart of account, you could do it the same way. But it gives you that information, the debt service and where it is. And for each one of these, you can click and it gives you a corresponding chart, but it just allows you to do things. It's more and more towns are going this route. And so this is something that we've had demoed, we've had them actually show this using our data. So we've been able to see the same information using our own data, but it's just a more user-friendly, and it still gives you the option to print. And so if you wanted to print any of these pages, you hit the print button and essentially it'll generate that file for you, the PDF, but you don't have to print the whole book, just those specific information that you're interested in. And you can do this for the capital budgets, for the capital projects, and so you can see the trends. It also has the ability, we may not find it as useful in New Canaan just because of the size of our town, but if you look at the capital improvement plan, it actually is able to show the projects on like a city map. So if you wanted to see what are some of the ongoing projects, or what is the total investment in my neighborhood or in my district, it would list the total projects and the dollars, and so you can kind of see what's going on in your community. And I think it also allows decision makers just to see the spatial allocation of resources within town, and so forth. So anyway, so this is something that we've been looking at. Obviously, we're fascinated by it because we're finance geeks. But I did want to kind of hear from you what your thoughts are, or what, if at all, you look at financial information. But just coming to get your input.
What is the source? What's the input?
So the input is our own financial information. So the same input.
Directly from the accounting system or?
Yes, so there's two ways to do it. You could do like the pull push. So you can have it feed directly into from your financial system, and you get more real-time information, because this is just an annual report, but you could do things like quarterly, you could do things like monthly. Sometimes I've gone as transparent as, they're called these they're called either open checkbook or government checkbook, where you can actually see a listing of accounts payable by department and see a listing of checks, and that's real time. You can make it up 24 hours, you can make weekly updates or monthly updates, but it's the choice of the entity.
Those could be in here.
Yes, so that would be.
And I assume if you put in the data, you could see year over year, you see trends over year?
Yes.
Okay.
So once you have a data, and they're able, when we spoke with both of them actually, you can give them historic data, so when you go live, you can go live with like 5 years of history, because we have the data in the system. It's just a matter of the data being mapped. And therefore, if you're interested to see what have been our parking revenues or sewer collection fees, things that interest Bob, you could go on here and you could literally click, see the trend, print your report without needing an ID to go into the financial system, because the data that's already there, and anybody can get that information. And from the simple queries.
Where does this data reside?
Right now, it's in our financial system, which we use Untitled Technology Unis. And so, for example, if you came to me and wanted to get a report, I would run that report in the system and either give it to you in an Excel spreadsheet or a printout of what the information is. But it is information that we already know.
Okay, but once it goes, this presumably is a module that you feed the data to.
Yes.
But is NeoGov, is this residing? in
Oh,
NeoGov?
yes. So the data is, and Chris, you're probably familiar with this as well. This is hosted by NeoGov. And therefore, so the financial data is in NeoGov. And we're unique because we're a public entity. All of this is public information. We don't, there are no names or anything, but it's just a listing of expenses. So anybody could walk into town hall and say, give me this report, and we would give it to them.
And that's really what that paper document is.
Yeah, so it's essentially what this paper document is, but this will be hosted on their servers, not on ours. That's how you understand it, Chris, right? At least that's what they told us.
Yeah, that's correct. It's all up in their cloud.
And what?
And it's public data, so it's the same thing you basically put up as a PDF every year and link to it, so.
Right.
And who's asking for this now? Like who, meaning the data, not the tool?
Right now, we have a couple of folks. So for example, this week we're doing a bond offering where we're issuing debt for public schools and whatnot. So people that are looking to invest, we are AAA credit town, right? And so our money is good. And therefore you have investors that are looking and getting their information about the town. So they would go in and get this information. We have auditors who audit our town. So therefore they're looking at trend data and getting that information. And then just general interested citizens that are needing financial data will come. It's not extremely high demand need for information, just because it varies with the town. I think most people in New Canaan are comfortable with their financial management. They're comfortable with where things are. There aren't any scandals of misappropriation, and therefore the need to drill down into our financial is not as great as any other town where you're seeing all these scary headlines.
So nobody siphoned off any.
Our auditors keep telling us year after year that that's not the case, and we believe them, so. It hasn't been the case, but that's, I mean, that was a long answer to your question.
Do you have residents who, come and ask for it?
Yeah, we do. We have, I forget what's his name, the gentleman who gives us housing stats every month. Richard. So we have some residents who really follow up on these things. I mean, they're looking at trend information, looking at trends, not too many. And these are typically people that are either they're finance professionals themselves or just have vested interest in knowing.
So you get, so by putting this up in this fashion, that will reduce the number of calls.
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Increase that you get.
Yes.
Okay, your department gets, okay.
It would. And then our boards, Board of Finance, Town Council, where I'm constantly getting requests, and my staff is as well, about information that we could push out. We're running reports for them that they could see. If you have 5-year trend, if they're looking to see, what have our tax revenues been? Can you give me a report that says what has been our 10-year mill rate? We would have that here, and so they would be able to go in and do that by themselves without going and opening individual budget document and trending it. So that would be.
It's also helpful for department managers.
Right, and then department managers as well, as they're managing their operations, because I know there are a number of calls that they get directly as department managers that don't come through me, that people that are curious. Parks Department, what are the capital projects that are going on? How much have we spent on this project? You guys are building the improvements to the parks. Where are we with that? And those types of things. So,
It's incredibly helpful because it graphically paints that nice picture for people who don't deal with this every day.
Right.
So beautiful.
And that's
It
what-
suddenly looks very user-friendly and I'm sure, it's just as a service to our town residents. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, looks great. A real no-brainer. Have you spoken about the cost, or do we understand any cost or licensing fees here?
So for this one, I think it was OpenGov. I confused which gov it was. I think one was like 5,000 a year annual, which I think for the product that we're getting is good.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it seems de minimis. Yep.
To do it. And then, a lot of work that goes to put this together, we can eliminate that work and do something like this. It varies depending on how much drill down you want to have. It gets a bit more complex, but if you want to go to the granular check number, so-and-so was paid to Office Max, you can get to that granular level. That may cost you a little bit more because you're providing them a little bit more data. But if you're looking for high-level trends, 5 to 10 years.
So that approximate cost allows us to have 5 years worth of data, 10 years worth of infinite.
It's not infinite, but you can go back. I believe they told us you could go back at least 10, definitely 5 as part of the initial package. But if you needed to go back 10, we just give them the data.
But this is just a link off of the area. What,
Yeah, so this is just on their website, so anybody can see it. You could have it actually smartphone friendly as well, so you could look at this on your phone if you have links.
Yeah, looking at charts in front of me, I was, I was fine. But yeah, you can do it. You had talked about, you can get down to the level of like, who, you paid a check to X for this. Is there a level of detail that you wouldn't want to put on? Not that it's not public, but just to not, just to keep it at a certain level for.
Right, so I mean, I don't think there's a need to get that granular to
Right.
this vendor, we've paid Acme on Main Street X amount of $1,000 in this quarter. I don't think that level of detail is necessary, but what we've spent on cement for the quarter throughout the various people we buy cement from, that's valuable.
Okay.
So yes, I don't see the need to get to that granular. And then if people wanted that granularity, it is a public information. They could always come to us. We would give it to them, but it's not something that I would necessarily encourage us just pushing out there.
how good is the search capability, and how does that affect what's going on here? Because if you made the input standardized, obviously, then YouGov or the other one could, develop a search engine for it. But what is, let's try cement here. What happens if you type cement into very end.
Yeah.
But
Right, and so, and I don't know how granular they get. And so in this instance, so for example, we wouldn't be able to get, and that maybe that's a very best example, because cement is part of, let's say, construction equipment or construction supplies.
Yeah.
So you would have cement and maybe rebars and plywood all under that category, because we don't provide that level of granularity. But we do have what we call classification codes of objects. So for example, office supplies, you could see what a department has spent in office supplies, which would include pencils, paper, rulers, and whatnot. So let's pick on Darien, let's see how granular they get. I'm not sure how, so this is the general fund.
what the hell is happening in 21, 22, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so this is, I can't see, is that the revised?
It says
budget?
revised budget for 21-22.
Okay. And this is a good example, because typically what happens is you approve a budget with certain assumptions and you don't always spend the full amount. And so what you're seeing here is this budget in this category is much higher than what the actual spend is. And so that tells you something as well, is, you know, how are they budgeting? Why are you budgeting double what historically has been somewhere on here? And so you could click on it, you could see Board of Education at that level, whereas here, Board of
Yeah.
so here you have a Board of Education actual of 102, but you have a Board of Education budget here of 212, almost double. That's what's
The
driving.
obviously interesting question.
Um,
What's the granularity of data?
Right, so then, let me see if I, yeah, so now I drill down into the Board of Education and I'm into their revised budget, just the Board of Education alone. So I see that 212. And I've clicked on the 212 and it doesn't give me any deeper. But we would be able to provide within that 212, there's 5-6 major categories of expenditures: personnel cost, contractual cost, project related costs. So we would provide, because we do that now in our budget, we provide that level. So we would include that as an additional drill down into this budget. You'd be able to see those 5 components of the budget. And that's probably the lowest level we would go in terms of this interface. And if somebody wanted even further drill down, then we could run those reports out in-house, because it does cost to push the data out there. It puts pressure on the service as well.
Now you talked about 3, I think it's NeoGov, ClearGov, was that the third one? And then this one's OpenGov, or was it just 2 of them, OpenGov and?
There's actually 3. There's NeoGov, ClearGov, and OpenGov.
Got it.
They both do very, very similar in terms of the reporting capabilities, and they may have been an offshoot at one point, maybe they were one. But any demo of each one will give you this about the same thing.
And is, so have you gone through, and you said you went through and you decided NeoGov seemed to meet our needs the best?
We've seen 2, and we liked, it doesn't really matter. I think at this point, it's really more about price.
Yeah.
And seeing which one can do. We're waiting. We've got the quote from NeoGov. We're waiting on the quote from ClearGov. And depending on where that falls, we will probably go with the one that's most cost efficient, because in terms of products, they're very, very similar.
So from a timing, when do you think, like, when do you want to get it up and live?
So for something like this, because of that threshold, we would probably, get your input if this is something that the board, the committee thinks is worth pursuing. We would approach the Board of Finance. We can do this anytime, just because you can go back historic. So we could say, we're starting up with historic data, and then once we approve this year's budget, we'll start building onto it. So we can start really at any time, to be honest. I would like to at least get, if I was to go forward, is to get it up and running and at least start loading some of the historic data. And then this new budget that gets approved, we would upload that as well. And so something like this, we would probably need to go to the Board of Finance. The dollar threshold doesn't really require us to go to the town council, but just in terms of transparency, not so much for approval, but just to show what we're doing, I would make a similar presentation to both bodies and say, this is kind of what we're thinking. get their input as well, possibly even before making the appropriation, just to kind of see what they're looking at. If there are other capabilities that they would like to see included in here. The different towns do different things. I've seen one where, and this was about, it was about our size town, I think it was in Pennsylvania, where you have similar capital projects on the map. You can click on the project and you can see that this is a bridge, bridge over Ponus that's getting built. You can get to that project. You can see pictures of the bridge. You can see schemes of the bridge, and then you can track the cost of the bridge and how long it's taking to get the bridge. So it depends on what you. But from a timelines perspective, they told us that once we get them the go ahead, it takes about maybe 8 weeks or so to get everything up and running. And then there's the testing. Obviously, we would work with IT to see what additional capabilities we need on our infrastructure to make this happen. We need to create a gateway between this and our financial system, which 99% of towns in Connecticut use what we use, Munis. So they're familiar, they know how to do it. It's just a matter of us granting whatever access and gates that they need in order to do.
Chris, is there anything from a security standpoint? I don't know if you've looked at all of these, like, is there any, or are they all very similar? So from your standpoint, it just becomes down to cost, because it sounds like feature-wise, they may be similar.
This is the first I'm hearing of it, first of all. Second of all, I've actually seen this before. Just rooting around, I get emails and communications, but there's no security risk here. It's all public information. They're just putting it in a better format than what we're used to doing.
Right.
And it's all the data in one. So we'll just get Munis to build a bridge between the two. And every time it's updated in Munis, it'll just funnel up to here.
So from your standpoint, all three of them seem to be comparable from your, at least from your, well, I guess maybe you want to do a little investigation, but from your standpoint, choosing any one of them is probably okay.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Like Linda said, there's a lot of towns that are and cities that are going this format and going in this direction. And it speaks volumes because it really does. We get calls every so often, especially after a budget cycle has been done, and from the public, where can we see it? Is it up yet or whatnot? And sometimes it can be confusing for certain people. So it'd be nice to just be able to send them to this and here you go, and then they can read through. But yeah, I'm very much in favor for this. This tool will work out really well, I believe.
It'd certainly be a nice addition to the website, more interactivity. So it's
Yeah,
great.
I think so.
Sure.
Any other questions?
No. Comments, that's all. It's very interesting to see that.
Okay, so in terms of website, is it will you have to sort of click out of it, like do a different system, or can it be embedded? Or in terms of, like, if you click to it, you go to the whatever gov site, OpenGov or NewGov, or I don't know.
Right. Yeah, so for example, so the link to this is on the finance page of Darien. So
Okay.
once it launches this page. And so looking at the link, this one is darienct.opengov.com.
So it would take you.
So it would take you to another.
Interesting, without a disclaimer that you're leaving the site.
Yeah.
Now, I went directly to this. I don't know if I would have clicked on, because I was
Right.
struggling to find it. If it does tell you,
Yeah.
you're jumping off the site.
Do we, it begs to the same question of like all the other sites that we go to from our website, for parking, for rec track, for all those, do we give them a heads up or leaving? I don't know. So. Good. Well, is there anything that it's interesting, anything that we can do to help you?
No, I just kind of wanted to run this by you. These are very preliminary stage. I think this is the first group of actually outside of the department that I've spoken with.
Yeah.
And so we'll toss it around, and then I can say that, we reviewed it, and if there's any comments that you guys have, you could shoot them our way, whether today or sometime down the line.
And certainly if you have a sample link, feel free to share
Okay,
it. We can take a look, play around, and try to break it and,
Okay. My goal was really try to, we couldn't get it done. I was really trying to have them build a new payment one, just for this demo, where we could see our data, we could look at the transfer station, we could look at Public Works and what Tiger's doing and those types of things, but we weren't able to pull it together in time for this meeting. But that could be something that we try and do just as part of sharing this information, rather than using someone else's information. We have our own that people are familiar with, kind of look and see what this
Well,
is.
certainly, you could drill down to the park, to the school system, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay. And it's like, oh, I know the
Yeah.
name of the schools, I know things going on, whatever building projects going on, those kind of things. So it becomes real at that point. Okay.
But yes, thanks for your time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And while we had you, there was,
Sure.
when you and I chatted, there was one other topic that you were, maybe just update the group or any thoughts on, was around digital invoices. So, I guess up till recently, right, they were,
Yes.
you were sending vendor invoices, were coming in by paper, right? And we were sending out paper checks. So we would love to, sounds like you're doing some great work in that area too.
Yes, so early on, I think it was early this year, we switched banks. We're in the process of switching from Webster to JP Morgan Chase. And one of the features that they have is this ability to do vendor payments, automate our check writing process, because right now we print the checks next door. We stuff them in envelopes, put stamps on them, and then send them out to vendors internally. So one of the things that this relationship will allow us to do is we will just send them a file of who needs to be paid, and they will issue the checks on the town's behalf. The checks are customized, they look just like our checks now, but we would get rid of that function internally and then send them out. So that's one element of it. The other element is that it's called Supplier Pay, where our vendors could essentially, it's almost like shopping on Amazon. And therefore we would create this linkage, and we can go and buy goods and services from their websites. And from there, they can invoice us digitally instead of sending us a paper invoice. Once it's invoiced to us digitally, it gets into our system and into our chart of accounts. It goes through the approval process, so it'll go through the department head and so forth, just like it does now, but electronically, eventually to the CFO sign off, and then we would issue that payment to them without having any paper interacting, and it interfaces with our Munis system. So that's one, that's the Supplier Pay. And the other one is, in addition to this automated payment process using the bank, they also have, and Andrew Brooks has been working on this for quite some time, is what they call Supplier Pay cards, which essentially is all your vendors have like electronic debit cards, for example, and that's how you pay them. And therefore I'm paying Bob for services provided. Instead of cutting him a check, or instead of the bank sending him a check, I would send him a digital, almost like a gift card.
Right.
And so what he does, it has a serial number, 16-digit number, just like any Visa or MasterCard. Once he enters, that vendor enters that number, it's a one-time use card, and that's how they get paid. So it's almost like I swiped at their point of sale, but instead they're clicking through, and that's how they're getting paid. It's just a faster way to send payments. It's cost effective because we're not dealing with mail, less prone to risk and fraud, because you have authentication in place, and you have a really good trail of all of these expenses. So those are all the things that are going to be coming on with the JP Morgan. Obviously, this digital card is something that vendors have to sign on, because not everybody wants to get paid that way. There's a cost to them getting paid that way, just like they pay now. If somebody comes and swipes at your location, there's a service charge that you pay. So they would be paying for that. However, the advantage to the town is it has a cashback reward system. So to the extent that these vendors are using this card, we get cash back. I think the last time we did the analysis, just looking at, we gave them a file of our vendors. They kind of looked and saw which ones are already using this with other towns. We could possibly gain anywhere between $200,000 to $250,000 a year just in cashback rebates, based on the profile and the dollar amounts that we spend with these group of vendors.
How come the mileage?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. So those are some of the exciting things that we have coming up with this. They're not all going to go live on day one, but at least the getting rid of the check cutting in finance, that's the #1 priority now. So we will do that.
When do you think that will start up?
We're looking at possibly a February or March go live. We were having one this morning. We have weekly meetings with them now. The accounts are getting created. At some point, we're going to start transferring funds from accounts. We have to notify vendors what our account numbers. We still receive directed ACH payments from the state, so we have to notify them. But we're looking at possibly around February or March, we will have transitioned all of our accounts to Chase, with the exception of tax collections, because they're on the tax collection year, so they can't switch mid-tax year. So those will go live in July or August, I think. We will start switching accounts in early spring and finish the process in July.
Now, does that still include residents, taxes paid? Does that go through, or is that go through a separate process?
No, so residents, because you're paying into us, we're not paying out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
You're saying you're paying, I got it.
yeah, so we're paying out, but we will have options, and we do now for check payments and credit card payments and online payment for things like taxes, and so we will be pushing that as well.
So you said February, March for the paper, moving that over. When do you think the invoice pay type things?
Invoice pay is dependent on two things, because the current version of Munis that we have doesn't have that capability. So we're in queue to upgrade our system. We're hoping to have the system upgraded by December of this year. But Munis is backed up with all these employment issues and whatnot. They have some major staff shortages in their implementation team. So we've been told that maybe March is when we may get upgraded. And so we can't do that with the current version of Munis.
Okay.
So that's what's limiting us. If we could, we would all go live at the same time. But that has to wait. Right now, we're looking at possibly March. We did ask them to at least give us the upgrade in our test environment, so we could at least see what the capabilities are. Even that is getting delayed, but we'll have the test environment done possibly by December or January before the live environment. But that's what's limiting us now, is you can't do it with our current version. We have to upgrade 2 versions up, which we were going to do anyway. But these were some enhanced capabilities that we get when we did that.
I'm just curious, when you upgrade Munis to the 2 versions, are there other benefits we get from?
Chris, do you remember? Have you seen the new version? I think it has. The reporting is different. It's more user friendly. It's kind of what we saw. The dashboard. A lot of these systems are going towards a dashboard type, and so I think it'll give departments more flexibility in terms of how they drill their own reports, how they generate reports. That's what I recall, Chris. Do you recall anything else? You were in on that meeting where they talked about the new version, right?
No, I wasn't there, but I got the notes afterward. Yeah, it's more of a, there's a lot more reporting. Again, like you just said, they're going more towards the charting and ease of use. But yeah, they've been behind because it's a SaaS. We're at their mercy. So.
Right.
Any other questions on that? No, sounds good.
I don't have any question. I just wanted to thank you for the excellent and clear presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thrilled to hear, that we're cutting checks, like.
Well, yeah, it takes so much time. I mean, you've seen when it's done. Any day, our check writing day, check cutting day. Some staff have to stay after hours because
Yeah.
everybody has to be off the system. You can't assist anybody else because people are walking in, and so you have to put everything on hold. And the only time that you can really do it without interruption is after everybody's gone.
Yeah.
And so we're paying overtime just to pay people, which isn't the best way to do it. And we don't have the staff to where you could say, ignore everybody else while you do this, because then people are waiting, we're not answering calls, so. The
It's
only way-
and it's a mechanics of the mail.
Yeah, and so you're literally printing checks and you're going to the printer, sometimes the printer gets stuck and it's.
Well, I imagine sort of fraud, it's more.
Well, yeah,
risk
and
of
it
fraud
is,
in
it
that
is,
too. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, well, other questions, yeah, no,
No,
thank you very much, we appreciate the time.
I'd like to listen in on the communication.
Yeah,
if I
please
may.
do,
Yeah,
please do.
thank you.
Okay, so guys, sorry, I need to hop to another meeting. Need to leave a little early.
Okay,
Okay, so, okay,
thanks.
bye-bye, thanks.
Bye, Anna Maria.
So Chris, the one, I thought Kevin was here, but I guess not. The townwide communications, so this was the Noble House Media, just update where, we had that great presentation 2 months ago. Do you know where we're at with that?
Yeah, we sat in a meeting last week. Bob was there as well. Noble House. We're gonna get them to build a test environment before we go live. And they've sent around, I think we all got it, right, Bob? The spreadsheet that they were looking for data input.
Yeah, so Chris, I've got to get the file to Chris and they'll send it up and we're gonna build a little sandbox for us, because we wanted to, before there's any kind of a commitment.
Yeah. So with the contact names up in there, so
Yeah.
you can see what it looks like.
Right, we'll see the whole background, we'll see the whole format, we'll see the front end of what they've created. And the only reason is they can't build it because they have to pay for it immediately, so that, because it's all built out in the cloud. And it's not their cloud, so they have to pay for space.
We're gonna take a look at it.
Yeah, it's not heavily expensive to start this out, and I think it's the direction that Kevin was really looking forward to doing. So that was the best option, was to let's create it and start to use it and beat it up, and then we'll probably start in-house, I could see, for communications and testing, and then
What's the status of this thing now?
We're going to get them one of the databases we use. And they're going to build a small sandbox that we can actually manipulate the data.
Sounded like they were gonna do that for us 2 months ago.
Yes, but they wanted a contract and we said, well, we're not going to sign a contract until we're comfortable that it works. So we had to do a little negotiation back and forth with that.
So if they build a sandbox, will you have the ability to really, will it give you a real good feel of what this provides? If they're custom building it.
We expect that. I mean, our first generation was the one that we put together with Mike's team,
Yeah,
and which I used it today, which was helpful.
Right.
And this will give us an ability to keep it current. That's the best thing. We've got a ton of data all around. From people who, a house has been sold 2 or 3 times.
yeah.
And in some of those situations, we had the data for all of that. For all those people. So this will help it keep cleaner with some of their other tools.
Got it. I'm so sorry if you said at what timing, Chris? Did they tell you when? If they could do this?
no, that we haven't gotten really nailed down time. Like I said, we just got the data sheet. So Bob and I will take what we've got to do and send it up to them. And
We're a little
I
busy.
can't imagine it's going to take too long to build it because they've already got a couple going on. But yeah, your question with in regards to will we get the hands-on nitty-gritty, that's what we're asking for. So they've got to put all their eggs in that basket so that we can see what we're going to use and what we're not going to use.
Got it.
Yeah, but I'm guessing a couple of months off, you know, for them to import what we're gonna send them and then,
2.5.
what's that?
This week,
Just being snarky.
You're being snarky, Paul.
Just another couple months.
all right, so it sounds like, yeah, that's still work in progress.
And it's progressing.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yes,
Progressing.
Yeah.
we should have much more to report in the next meeting.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of stuff that we're doing is we're not, it's not really an out of the box vendor software package. That's just it. They're manufacturing it a little different twist for each client. And at this point, so they have nothing really off the shelf. Well, what they demonstrated to us so far is their own system that they use for themselves.
Internal, okay. So, yeah, I mean, then it gets to a point of like, all right, is it them building it versus some off-the-shelf solution?
So are they providing this to other municipalities? I thought they were.
They're working with other municipalities, but they're doing something different with each one. I think Darien our closest one, and they're doing something different with them, according to what they're telling us.
All right. so-
Which is, it's interesting, even with all these various projects that I'm working on, it's not unique for this town. Selling
No, it's the same
parking,
for
permits, things like that. If 15 or 20 municipalities get together, it could be an off the shelf for us, right?
So the agenda item will show up next.
Yeah, yes, we'll put us for an update on the update. All right, but at that point, hopefully you'll have gotten in there and you'll be able to say, all right, actually, this is what we can do, what I can't do, or.
Yeah, or I won't do what we want to do, and
So,
but it's getting to every residence. That's our primary goal. And it's not just a homeowner, because we were just putting together a list, because you could be the homeowner, owner occupied, you could be the homeowner renting, it could be a two-family, so you could now have 2 families, 3 families, or 4 different residents there. You could be here part of the year and then be down south another part of the year, or you could be changing your residence for a specific reason. So there's about 8 different combinations you can have.
right.
Yeah, if these people just stop moving around.
Yeah.
Well, we are really a mobile society and are getting more apartment rentals. You know, we're fortunate that the big project that was done over here, the View, the owner, Arnold Cart, was very cooperative, because he saw a benefit to positive communication, and they pushed a button and they gave us a list of all their renters, all their tenants.
Yeah, the trick is, can you get that updated?
Yeah.
Are those all owner occupied, or are they owner rented out?
Those,
'Cause I mean, that you could-
the building, the 2 buildings at the top are rented. The 2 buildings toward Park Street are condos to be sold. And I believe with the approval that was given by the town, he can only convert the rentals to sale. There's a limited number per year they can do, 5, maybe 6, because they didn't want to flood the market. And that was from our building approval.
Flood the market
With all of a sudden,
Units for sale?
50 units all at once. And now, who knew that the market would be like it is today?
Right.
When it was approved. But he's selling it. I mean, he's selling every week. You see one more for a couple $1 million.
His database provides you with an interesting little test case.
Yeah.
He's got, although I didn't hear anything about owner and then rented. On the condominium side, I guess is owner occupied.
I, at this point, I believe it's owner occupied, and usually in condominium documents, they limit
Right.
whether we want renters in there or whether we don't. But I think the way it's legally structured is you've got the two buildings that are all condo units. And I believe the top buildings are structured as one condo for now, and then he'll peel them off as he sells them.
All right, so I guess more to come. We'll put that on the agenda. All right, so those were the key agenda items. Any other topics, new or old, anyone wanted to bring up?
No, there's a website committee meeting tomorrow. I'm gonna try to ask Sal if he would provide information, because he keeps scheduling these things for the day after.
Oh, this meeting.
We don't get any updates unless I happen to be there and pay attention.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would happen. And then it's 2 months before we
Yeah, that makes sense.
feed it back to the group.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. All right, so anything else? No. I think the next to last thing is the next meeting, since we don't have anything on the calendar. I have January 12th as the second Wednesday in January. If everyone makes sense. I think my thought is for that meeting is couple things. One is I think we have to elect chairman and secretary, but also we can also talk about agenda for the year and also calendar. Want to keep it bi-monthly, do we want to change it, whatever, we can all discuss that at that point.
And I put in the communications program.
And definitely about the communications program. So yeah, we'll have the next meeting, same time, if that works, January 12th at 7 o'clock, and then we can talk about the 22 agenda.
Perfect.
All right.
Great.
All right,
Thank
so we have a motion to adjourn.
I make most of the church.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep, there we go. All right, thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank you. Good night now.
Have a good evening.
Great.